Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I'm Resta Fuji Astuti from Class C of English Education Department UIN Sunan Gunung Jati, Bandung. In this subject, translation English Indonesia, I would like to presentation about explore the role of consecutive interpreting in the education of ASL English interpreters in North America. Consecutive and simultaneous use to achieve the most accurate interpretation in a format that works effectively for all participation in interpreter events. These interpreter use to all of people who want to accurate interpretation and effectively in all events. And what is consecutive and simultaneous interpretation? Consecutive interpretation is defined as the process of interpreting after the speaker or signer has completed one or more ideas in such language and passes while the interpreter transmits that information. Simultaneous interpretation is defined as the process of interpreting into the target language at the same time as the search language is being delivered. A consecutive is some process that the interpreter speak after speaker, and simultaneous is some process that the interpreter have target language and the same time of the speaker. And this summarize the common features of these models from Humphrey and Elkon, which apply to both consecutive and simultaneous interpreting. The interpreter takes in the search utterance. Lexical and semantic units are strung together and held until the interpreter has sufficient units to determine the meaning of what is being said or signed. A string of lexical and semantic units. Cultural and linguistic equivalents are sought. A search is made of the target language to identify the lexical and semantic units and communication behaviors that can use to produce an utterance in the target language with equivalent meaning. The interpretation is expressed in the target language, and the interpreter monitors internal and external feedback to check for errors or needed corrections. And the role of consecutive interpreting in the education of interpreters. Students approach interpretation as a transcoding activity. Students who lack a true grounding in consecutive interpreting immediately begin interpreting in a simultaneous mode. Students are unaware of the benefits of consecutive interpreting. Myths and perceptions. One of the prevailing myths in the field is that if an interpreter interprets consecutively, it is an indication that she is less skilled than an interpreter who uses simultaneous interpretation. Models of interpreting and their role in consecutive interpreting. The earliest models from the 1970s focus on cognitive process and textual processing models. The step of the model. First is assess contextual factors and monitors process. Continue compressions such language message. Apply contextual and linguistic schema and select simultaneous or consecutive interpreting. And next, formulate equivalent message. And the last, produce target language interpretation. Consecutive and simultaneous interpreting in legal context. For the expert witness discharge, the number of correctly interpreted utterance during consecutive interpreting was 613 per 645 or 95%, whereas the number of correctly interpreted utterance during simultaneous interpreting was 362 per 415 or 87%. Deciding factors in the use of consecutive interpreting. Complexity and density of information. Setting. Consumers' non-conventional use of signed language. Consumer is a child. Consequence of interpreting errors are grave when working with a deaf interpreter. One educator added an additional factor. When she did not know the participants well and the newness of the situation or information was challenging for her, this speaks to the role of contextual variable and their impact on the interpretation. The last is implication for our field. Educators and students have opportunities to explore methods of integrating research into the classroom, bringing awareness of the role of cognitive models of interpreting and of consecutive interpreting as part of the critical skill set that interpreters require throughout their careers. And that's all my presentation about consecutive and simultaneous interpreter. Thank you very much. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.